Greetings, welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. On this episode, we want to tackle a age-old, simple but very profound question. Why do men cheat? Now, I know many of you have heard and certainly have some input about this question. I want to share with you a few surprises, however simple the question may seem. Now, why is this question important? It's important because though the question is framed around men, it's not only involving men, because it takes at least two people to cheat, right? So let's start with this question, and I'm going to show you along the way how this question is deceivingly not so simple, but not so complicated at the same time, with a few surprises along the way. So let's get right into it. Why do men cheat? Well, let's start with some statistics, which of course are generalizations, but the generalizations give us some patterns, and those patterns obviously tell a certain kind of truth that may not be applicable to all, but it applies in most cases. The truth is women cheat more than men, right? And in fact, if you break down cheating by race, and let's first define cheating before we do that. By cheating, we mean extramarital affair in most cases, but cheating doesn't have to occur in the context of marriage. In other words, any relationship, whether it's simply the beginning of a relationship or the sort of feeling out phase, or it's a more deeper committed relationship, something before marriage, cheating can occur. So marriage is not simply the only or sole place where cheating can occur. So it is basically having more than one active partner in a relationship of any sort, to which the other person, that is the person to which you have the initial relation, did not agree or consent to, right? So that said, let's break this down by race, right? Which of course is dubious in itself, but again, these statistics provide some context for our discussion. That's all, some guidelines. And so according to most studies that interview and do this kind of work around cheating, again, women cheat more than men. And the answer is pretty simple. Women are more sophisticated when it comes to pretending, hiding, and performing the role of essentially cheating over a long period of time. Men are much more clumsy, much more sloppier, much less strategic about hiding and deceiving. Even though they try, they're less capable and less competent when it comes to these matters. What's more surprising, you might think, is that when it comes down to the three so-called racial categories of the United States, that is Black, White, Hispanic, Latino, that Black folks have a higher rate of cheating, or you might call adultery, extramarital affair, whatever you want to call it. We'll just say cheating for short, have a higher rate compared to whites and Hispanics. And among these Black folks, Black women have a higher rate and frequency of cheating when it comes between Black men and Black women. And so take that. Now, what's equally more important here, right? If you hold on to statistics and put them aside for a moment, right? The real question we're not asking, and this is one of the twists that you're going to get in this episode. The real question we're not asking is not that why do men cheat, right? The real question is, what makes them cheat? Now, I'll give you some more numbers to work with, just for context, right? Before we get to that question. 56% or more of all marriages in the United States fail. And this number is comparable across the globe, with obviously some spikes here and lower points there. But for the most part, it's above 50%, right? Some cases it's higher than that across the globe. So these numbers are not only stable for the US, it's also pretty much applicable for across the world. That said, however, in the United States, that 86% or more of the people who divorce tend to remarry sometimes within 5 or 6 years after that divorce. What does that tell you? That A, these folks who divorce don't give up on the idea and the meaning of marriage. B, it tells us that there's something in decision making, something in the matching, the incompatibility to why that marriage failed. Now, to the question, what makes men cheat? It's also tied up to the question of what make marriages fail, right? And you might think, well, It is money. Yes, money is a consideration, but it's not the top one, right? Employment, not the top one, right? Status, not the top one, right? It's more the intangibles, right? Intercourse is one of the reasons, according to people who have been studied regarding infidelity, adultery, and divorce being the outcome of these kinds of behaviors, right? It's intimacy, but not just intimacy in terms of sex, intimacy in terms of the sort of the things, the rituals, the touchy-feely things that are built up, that's created between you and your partner and your mate, that only makes sense, that only have meaning between you two, right? And so what we're getting at here is there are issues of mismatches, of incompatibility, but not simply of the mind or of the body, meaning how the person looks, how they appear. Yes, after a while, all our body changes. For men, their body changes. Some gets, the classic beer belly, or they're out of shape, and they don't take care of themselves in terms of grooming and hygiene. Women have children. There is that, layers of perhaps undesirable weight or fat that comes after one or more childbirth, that is more harder to, shed, because with age goes metabolism, right? And therefore burning off those fat and those calories is much more harder to do by average, right? And so I'm not talking simply about desirability in terms of physical appearance, right? I'm talking about intimacy with that person's soul. As you know from previous episode, powered by Nyame, when we say the heart, we mean the soul. That is the deepest part of you, the core of you, who you really are. And in fact, many of us would be surprised and shocked if we were to strip away not simply our skin, but this physical body, this clothing that we have, and really see ourselves fully. We will, in fact, be terrified, because we would look like aliens. That is, aliens you see in the movies and in the sci-fi comic books, etc. And so the point I'm getting at here is that those people that tend to remarry, again, 80% is a high number. 86% is a high number, right? That's close to, if you round it up, that's 90%. I mean, the vast majority of people who divorce tend to remarry within 5 years or less, which means that there's something here about not simply what makes men cheat or what makes a woman cheat, is the issue of incompatibility. It's something that is itching and burning that within that man or with that woman, but we'll say the man just for this purpose of this episode, that is not being quenched, is not being met, is not being aligned within their current partnership relationship, right? And it's really that simple, which is why men who cheat and they're interviewed or they're surveyed tend to say that when they find somebody else that gives them something that they don't have or get in their current relationship, is usually the intangibles. It's not about the sex. It's not about, excuse me, the status. It's not about the monies or the things that woman may provide or have. It's something else that is not physical, that she provides him, that he thinks and feels within his soul that he's not getting within the current arrangement, right? So cheating, therefore, as a takeaway, is more than just sex. It's more than just a disdain for the current partner that somebody's with. That is a spiritual matter here. I would say mostly, not solely. And by spirit, I mean it's something that is that's not sitting well within his soul. That is almost like a, dare I say, like a negative force or a demon that's just riding him, which is not an excuse for cheating, but I'm saying it's an explanation, which may give us some insight into, again, the divorce rate, but also the remarry rate, right? And it may also give us the same kind of statistics when it comes to relationships that are before marriage or without marriage, which is that people may leave one relationship and go to the next one, right? Is that it's the intangible things that people find with that person that can do for them. So for instance, the reason why men don't cheat, which is the converse of why men do cheat, is that they can find more of a compatibility with that person that is beyond simply their appearance, beyond their status, beyond what they may have in terms of material possessions and the like. It is that that woman, in the case of a man, loves him truly and carefully and deeply for who and what he is, right? For who he is and what he is. For who he is as a soul, encased in his human flesh and body, and what he is as a human being, as a person. She loves him for that and that only, right? And so if he loses a job tomorrow, she's not on to plan B or plan C or plan D in some cases. If he is laid off, she's not on to those plans. If he has a crisis, and before those things, she is what? Checking in on him, right? She's like his mother, because this is the major mistake that men make before they get to cheating. You see, the vast majority of men, they will always or almost always choose a woman for themselves rather than a mother for his child or children. I'll say it again. They will look for a woman for himself, as someone that he can look good with, someone that he said, she's fine, or she has these, physical features, right? Body parts in particular, or she's this height, or she's this weight. He's looking for something to satisfy his eyes and his head and what she will look like with him when they are out and about. Major underlining mistake that almost all men make. What men should do, which of course will lead into why men don't cheat, because there are many men that don't cheat, that have this fidelity with their partner, right? However long, that partnership and that relationship endures, right? Is that they have someone, and they themselves have this reciprocal sense of, this person that I love, that I care about, is not because of how she or he looks and appears and what they have, but it's simply just who they are. So they get joy and pleasure from seeing them shine. They get joy and pleasure, he or she get joy and pleasure from their highs and their lows. They don't only share when things are great, they share when things are not great, not going well. Because that person cherishes them, loves them for who and are as a soul and what they are as a human being, and therefore what they mean to them, right? That person could be poor and impoverished, but as long as they're together, they're going to figure it out and figure it out together. So when they climb together. When they fall together. They get back up, they get back together. So if it is one of those individuals, in this case, a man that comes out of a failed relationship or marriage and then remarries or gets another relationship, they will rise, right? Because they have the particular sense they're looking for, not a simply a eye candy or a woman that looks good with them, or a woman that looks good, period, but they're looking for a mother for their children. And when they look for a mother, they are less likely to cheat. Because in looking for a mother, all men, and this is proverbially true, are looking for not their mother in duplicate. They're looking for the qualities and the sensibilities and the intangibles that they got and that they need from their mother. And so, yes, she has to mother him in that way, right? And in doing so, men are less likely to cheat. And those men that don't cheat tend to have those qualities. And therefore, we figured out this conundrum as to why do men cheat, what makes them cheat, but also what makes them stay. And the converse can be true for women as well, right? Even though women have a higher rate of cheating, which means that they have a higher probability of staying if the matter of compatibility and matching up soul to soul, as it were, is in their favor, right? And another factor as to why men don't cheat, right, and couples stay together, is that if the couple are engaged in a spiritual or religious commitment, right? Some people it is going to church, some people it's going to the mosque, some people it is, having their own spiritual communion. Because remember, your body is a sanctuary, right? And so when you and that person, get together, the divine is always there. The creative force, the Almighty is always there. And so I don't mean going to a physical place is necessary, but according to the stats, they suggest that if the couple is engaged in and has a healthy spiritual belief, right, in the divine, then those people tend to stay together, and not to stay together as a museum object, or we're just staying together, stay together, but in fact, they want to be together, right? And therefore, they're less likely to what? To cheat on either party because of their what? Their spiritual religious commitment that they have. And therefore, that spiritual religious commitment becomes like an adhesive, like a bond, a glue that what locks them in a certain commitment that is beyond the flesh, beyond the status, beyond the money, and beyond the material things that a person may possess. For Powered by Nyame, I've been your guided host in this episode. I hope that you found it useful and informative. Please drop your comments and questions in the section below. Until next time, stay well.